Good morning, y'all. I hope everyone's had time to recover from our deep dive into the Odyssey. Today we're shifting gears completely to explore one of the greatest tragedies ever written, Oedipus Rex by Sophocles. Now I want to warn you right up front, this ain't no feel-good homecoming story like we had with the Odyssey. This is a Greek tragedy with a capital T. And if you thought your family had issues, honey, you ain't seen nothing yet. Before we dive into Oedipus himself, let's talk about this shift from poetry to tragedy. The ancient Greeks didn't just give us democracy and philosophy. They invented theater as we know it. Greek tragedy developed in Athens during the 5th century BCE as part of religious festivals honoring Dionysus, the god of wine, fertility, and theater. These weren't just entertainment. They were civic and religious events where the whole city would gather. Now, Greek tragedy had certain elements to it. One was the tragic hero, which was usually a person of high status with a fatal flaw. Then there's the chorus, which is a group that comments on the action, often representing the citizens. There was unity of time, place, and action, which means that everything happens in one location, usually in just one day. There's peripecia, which is a sudden reversal of fortune. Anagnosis, which is a moment of recognition or discovery. And catharsis, which is the emotional panging the audience feels at the end. Sophocles was one of 3 great Athenian tragedians, along with Aeschylus and Euripides. He wrote Oedipus Rex around 429 BCE, and Lord have mercy, he really knew how to twist a knife into your heart. Now, the story of Oedipus wasn't Sophocles' invention. It was already ancient mythology by this time. It's part of the Theban cycle of myths about the royal family of Thebes. And every Athenian in that theater already knew how it was going to end. The brilliance is in how Sophocles tells it. Here's the quick background. Laius and Jocasta, king and queen of Thebes, are warned by an oracle that their son would kill his father and marry his mother. So when the baby's born, they pierce his ankles and they give him to a shepherd to expose him on a mountain, and they thought that was that. But of course, the shepherd takes pity on the baby and gives him to another shepherd who takes him to Corinth, and he is adopted by the childless king Polybur and queen Merope. Oedipus grows up thinking that these are his real parents. Oedipus Rex begins long after all that backstory. Oedipus is now the successful king of Thebes, having saved the city from the Sphinx by solving the riddle. He's married to Jocasta, although neither one of them knows that she's his real mother. And they have children, and everything seems peachy keen. There's a terrible plague afflicting Thebes. The citizens beg Oedipus to save them again, just like he did with the Sphinx. Oedipus sends his brother-in-law, Creon, to ask the oracle at Delphi what's causing the plague. Creon returns with some troubling news. The plague won't end until the murderer of the previous king, Laius, is found and punished. Oedipus, being a good king, vows to solve this murder mystery. Little does he know that he's investigating himself. What follows is a detective story in reverse. Oedipus is both the detective and the criminal, and he just doesn't know it yet. As he questions witnesses and pieces together evidence, he gets closer and closer to the horrible truth. First comes the blind prophet, Tiresias, who reluctantly suggests that Oedipus himself is the murderer. Oedipus gets madder than a wet hen, accusing Tiresias and Creon of conspiring against him. Jocasta tries to comfort him by saying that prophecies are nonsense. After all, an oracle had once said that her husband would be killed by their son, and he was actually killed by a robber at a crossroads, which makes Oedipus remember that he once killed an older man at a crossroads before coming to Thebes. The final pieces come together when a messenger from Corinth arrives to tell Oedipus that King Polybus has died, but reveals that Polybus was not his biological father. The old shepherd that was supposed to expose baby Oedipus is brought in and forced to confirm the awful truth. Oedipus has indeed killed his father, Laius, and married his mother, Jocasta. When Jocasta realizes the truth, she hangs herself. Oedipus finds her body, takes the brooches from her dress, and gouges out his own eyes. Blind and broken, he asks to be exiled from Thebes. One of the most powerful elements in Oedipus Rex is the use of tragic irony, which is when the audience knows something that the characters don't. Since everyone watching already knows the myth of Oedipus, they're sitting there hollering in their minds, "Don't investigate, you don't want to know." Sophocles brilliantly plays with the themes of sight and blindness throughout the entire story. Oedipus can see, but is blind to the truth. Tiresias is physically blind, but sees the truth. And when Oedipus finally sees the truth, he blinds himself. There's a famous line when Oedipus says to the blind Tiresias, "You are blind in your ears and mind as well as in your eyes." The irony is thicker than molasses, y'all. Now, here's the big philosophical question at the heart of this tragedy. Was Oedipus doomed from the start, or did he bring this on himself? On one hand, the prophecy existed before he was born, and every attempt to avoid it just led straight to it. His parents' decision to have him exposed actually led to him being raised in Corinth and not knowing who his real family was. When Oedipus later heard about the prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother, he instantly fled Corinth. But that led him straight to the road to Thebes, where he was going to meet with his real family. On the other hand, he did kill Laius in a fit of rage at the crossroads, and he married an older woman without investigating the recent death of her husband, and his pride and temper drive him to pursue the truth even though he was being warned against it. So is he a helpless puppet of fate or responsible for his own downfall? The genius of Sophocles is that he doesn't give us an easy answer. It's both. The prophecy would be fulfilled, but how it happened depended on his choices. As my grandmama used to say, the good Lord may choose your destination, but it's your choice how you're going to get there. Aristotle, writing about tragedy about a century after Sophocles, used Oedipus as his prime example of the perfect tragic hero. According to Aristotle, the ideal tragic hero should be, 1, of noble birth and high status. Oedipus was a king twice over. 2, not entirely be good or bad, but good on the whole. Oedipus, he was a good king because he wanted to save his people. 3, he's brought down by a fatal flaw. And Oedipus has his pride, his temper, and his relentless drive to know the truth. And then 4, his fall should evoke pity and fear in the audience. So we got all 4 of them there. What makes Oedipus such a powerful tragic hero is that his greatest strengths are also what brings him down. The same intelligence that he used to solve the riddle of the Sphinx drives him to solve the mystery of Laius' murder. The same determination that saved Thebes is now destroying him and his family. As the chorus says, count no man happy until he reaches the end of his life without suffering. Now let's talk about that chorus for a minute. In Greek tragedy, the chorus was a group of performers who commented on the action, often representing the normal citizens. They dance, sing, offer prayers, and react to events. In Oedipus Rex, the chorus is made up of the elders of Thebes. They respect Oedipus at first, but they get worried when his investigation progresses, and finally they lament his downfall. They're like us, the audience, witnessing the calamity unfold. Listen to some of these famous lines. What man on earth wins more happiness than a seeming and after that turning away? Oedipus, you are my pattern of this. Oedipus, you and your fate. Luckless Oedipus, whom of all men I envied not at all. At its core, Oedipus Rex is about the pursuit of self-knowledge and its terrible cost. The famous inscription at the Temple of Apollo at Delphi was "Know thyself," but Sophocles shows us that such knowledge can be devastating. Oedipus begins by saying, "I will bring it all to light." He's absolutely determined to uncover the truth, despite multiple warnings. When the old shepherd begs him to stop questioning, Oedipus insists, "I must hear it." What makes this truly tragic is that once he knows the truth, he can't unknow it. There's no going back. The knowledge destroys the world as he understood it. I can't talk about Oedipus without mentioning how Sigmund Freud used this myth in the late 19th century to develop his theory of the Oedipus complex. The idea that young boys unconsciously desire their mother and see their father as a threat. Now, I don't think that's what Sophocles was getting at, but it shows how powerful this story remains. It speaks to us across centuries because it asks fundamental questions about human identity, knowledge, family, responsibility, and fate. Odysseus is defined by his cleverness and survival, while Oedipus by his intelligence and self-destruction. Odysseus spends 20 years trying to return home, while Oedipus discovers his true home is the last place he should be. And Odysseus relies on disguise and deception. Oedipus is relentlessly committed to uncovering the truth. Odysseus finds a happy ending with family reunions, and Oedipus finds tragedy with family relations. And both heroes face divine forces. Odysseus confronts gods who help or hinder him directly, while Oedipus struggles against prophecy and oracles that shape his life from birth. Oedipus Rex isn't just some dusty old play we read because it's good for us. It's influenced just about every serious dramatist since, from Shakespeare to Arthur Miller. The structure of tragic recognition, the idea of a character's strengths becoming their downfall, the examination of human limitations. These elements appear in countless works of literature. Even modern detective stories owe a debt to Oedipus, the relentless investigator who follows clues to an unexpected conclusion is a template that crime writers still use today. Most importantly, the questions Oedipus Rex asks remain as urgent today as they were in ancient Greece. How much control do we have over our lives? Can we ever truly know ourselves? What happens when our identities are built on false foundations? And what price are we willing to pay for truth? Oedipus Rex ends with these words from the chorus. "Look upon that last day always. Count no mortal happy until he has passed the final limit of his life secure from pain." That's a sobering thought, ain't it? The Greeks weren't much for sugarcoating life's harsh realities, but there's wisdom in remembering our human fragility and the limit of our control. Next time, we'll be looking at selections from Virgil's Aeneid, so be sure to do the reading.